YouTube, welcome. I am going to do this tutorial as much as I didn't want to because I had some people ask me some pretty legitimate questions. Now, this program, I have done a few videos prior to this as far as just the encryption part goes of malware. This is an actual complete malware program and it will completely destroy your system. I can't stress enough that cybercrime is a felony and it violates federal law. This is for educational research only, and I can't stress that enough. I really hope that anyone viewing this does not use this in a malicious way. With that being said, I am not responsible for whatever actions you decide to take because you have been warned. I am going to go ahead now and go down through this and explain things as we get going. This program does a lot of many horrible things. So in the beginning, we have our global variables for device informational structures, and we'll get into those what those structures are here shortly. This is another part of the global variables where I'm basically gathering whoever the user is and it's basically the current user and whoever's on the computer at the time. It doesn't matter if they're an admin or who it is. This other set of functions that you see here is it's part of a find window and set windows to remove the taskbar that you see down here. So you see a lot of stuff going on here in this form load, and you see an obsolete, and I'm going to go ahead and explain some of this. All these timers that you're seeing are coming from this form, and you can see all these timers. I'm going to just go ahead and show you what each one is set for. Basically what this program does is it starts up and it only stays running for a few seconds, long enough to go in with the GPO and change the policy and add itself to the task scheduler at the highest level, and then it resets a computer. While it's doing that, it's going into BCD edit, which takes away the boot menu and all kinds of startup recovery stuff and things like that. So each one of these timers are all set true. They all have different time lengths on them. And now that that part's out of the way, I can close this out. Now, if I started this program, my computer would be toast because I do not have anything blocked. As we get going, you're going to understand what these subkeys are, but I have left little notes. This program protects its not only the folder that it comes from, but it also protects its process. You couldn't shut it down in Task Manager, and you couldn't get into Task Manager even if you wanted to. I have a couple of different backups to do that. One is a registry, and I also have well, I'll actually get into that when we get to it, but basically I have a bat file that writes itself. When this program loads, it is writing a bat file at the same time and then launching it, and it's constantly looping, checking to see if Task Manager is started, and if it is, it'll just be shut out. I'll give you a demonstration here shortly how that works from another program. Anytime I work with something like this, I have to go through and test little pieces of code. And when I do it, I obviously can't test the entire thing because if I did, I'd fry my fucking system. So what I do is I open up another Visual Studios and I have basically this little tester form that I just test small little pieces of code like you would see here or whatnot in there to just make sure that they are all functioning properly. Now you're going to see these on error, go to error, and you're going to see that it's saying, hey, go to there, and then just keep moving on. When people write malicious code, that's something they do. You're normally not going to want to use try statements and have it throwing messages and different things like that. There are ways of doing, See, like if you look at this right here, the EX2 string, which this would end up doing essentially is coming up and having a little message box, and things like that we really don't want. So instead, we'd go debug, and we'd do like write line. And what I would do, I would remove this, and I just do message. And oops, spelled that backwards. And this part can come out. And I just leave it like that. Now, if you wanted it to actually say something, you could go in here and just go like error. Can't spell today. But anyway, that's how that would work. But we don't want that to happen. Basically, this is a cheesy way of passing through a process if it's going to fail. And the last thing you want is malware to start up and fail, because then it serves no purpose. So these are little things that they do to do that. And this is a process to check if the admin is running. If the admin is running, because you need admin in order to use VC edit to make the recovery options enabled, no. Like anything to do with BCD edit, you have to have administrative rights. So this program, I mean, essentially, if malware is going into somebody else's system, they're generally going to be an admin anyway, and you don't have to worry about this. But if they're not, this is going to basically catch the program, so it's not launching things and then throwing errors and stuff. It's just going to check to see if administration is logged in. If not, it will hold off until they are, and then it will go through this process. And here you have, to disable automatic recovery type BC edit, blah, blah, blah. That's what this does. It represents the current operating system, and changing the value to no will stop automatic recovery. As we're moving down, the following command deletes the volume entry with the ID right here, which is your SID, security identifier number, and removes a specific entry identifier user from the boot sequence account. So whoever's in this computer won't be there as a user. They will be terminated. Moving on. We're now going into the primary deletion of user accounts. This is the net user command is used to add, remove, and make changes to the user's account on a computer, all from the command prompt. And that's what this does. It's going in and taking that out. The whole purpose is control when you're writing malware. That's the whole purpose of everything. It's everything. So this is a add directory security. Basically what it's doing is it is going in, and this is just, I'm not done writing this yet, but this is mostly done. I would have other ones like this that would come in. This is blocking my music, so you can't even get into it after. But it doesn't happen until later. After it restarts, there's a lot of other things that fall into play. Right here is part of the housing. This is a separate thread. Anytime you have a UI, you don't want to run too many threads on it, and it's smart to have multiple threading, as long as you're smart enough to close them out. Sometimes you'd see people have like T-join here, and using join is not a great idea because it can leave hanging threads, and you don't want that. It's not good to run numerous processes off one thread, which is your UI on this. Now, this is part of the process security rights. This is basically anyone trying to shut this program down in Task Manager, even though they can't get into Task Manager, it will tell them they need admin permission to shut it down. And this is process security APIs that, complement all that. I've left little notes in this. You guys are welcome to stop this video at any time and go through it. I kind of have to move through this quickly because there's a lot. This is a file shield. This is basically, now, earlier I discussed that this protects its process, and this is basically this prevents a program exe from being basically deleted or accessed unless you're an administrator. And this goes into the AES Raindoll managed 256-bit encryption. which we covered in a previous video. If you guys wanted to see that, you're welcome to go back. But so this is moving on to the encryption, and I've added more extensions to this, as you can see. This is every extension basically in a computer. There are a few things like settings isn't in there and a couple other things, but and this is going through and it's encrypting the program files. As you can see, all of this is undone now. This is going through desktop, downloads, documents, my pictures, videos. It is encrypting everything and it cannot be undone. So this right here is the GPO security identifier that we went over in a previous video, which gets the highest mandatory level at scheduled task. When I told you the computer, when this program starts up in the beginning, it will immediately restart itself and it will be running this code that you see right here, and it will be creating a task at the highest administrative level. And this is very effective. I can't stress that enough. I accidentally ran this once. Thankfully, there was no malicious code with it when I did it, because it would have really sucked ass. Just gonna jaunt back up real quick in case I didn't get anything in here. No, I did. Okay. So these are moving on to the timers that go in the intervals, and this, when it restarts, it starts the encryption process, which is dead meadow. And then it has this program has a self-destruct sequence. So basically, once this starts up and after it's encrypted your system, it starts another timer. And when that timer gets going, this program will self-destruct. It'll do that, which is this code right here. It basically will self-destruct because the last thing you want is your program to be traceable after it's done its damage. That's one of the biggest mistakes that malware and ransomware writers make, is that they're not smart about their code when they're doing it, and they don't have a self-destruct sequence. If you're going to write malicious code, which I strongly advise you don't unless it's for educational research, it's what it is. These GC you see is garbage collection. It basically reallocates RAM when the program closes. That's the shutdown process that you see right here for 5 seconds after the program starts up. This is getting your drive flash plugins, basically saying, hey, you plug a flash drive into me, I'm going to restart myself. And this right here is the anti-task manager. Basically, this is writing a bat file. I don't need this little thing right here. So it's basically is running through, and then it's doing a process start after it string builds and writes it. And anytime you get going, you're going to see these little yellow double quotes. It only had one here, and I had to add double. If anytime you're doing that and you see an error, that's because you're not adding it on the inside. The outsides are fine. You don't need to do that. But if you ever have bat code and you're trying to write it in VB.net, you have to double it up. It's just the way it is. And then we have, this other stuff going on. I have to stop this video and start